Okay, guys, I expect that we'll have more people who pop in the next few minutes, but we'll go ahead and get started. And as people come in, they can just begin to participate. I want to thank all of you guys for coming today and for being a part of this. My name is Paula Whitaker. I'm with the Hawaii Autism Foundation, and I want to introduce our panelists today, who are the experts. First, Amanda. Kelly.
Hi, thanks, Paula. So I'm Dr. Amanda Kelly. I am the founder and co-founder and president together for Kiki. I'm a licensed behavior analyst and formerly trained as an elementary education teacher. So thanks for having me here today.
Thank you. And then we have Tori Sims.
Hi, I'm Tori. I'm a board member with Together for Kiki and a licensed behavior analyst, board certified behavior analyst with Marlboro Learning.
Awesome. And then we have Kevin.
Hello, everybody. I'm a BCBA out on the Big Island. I'm currently with Big Island Behavior Interventions. I just want to thank you guys for having me a part of the panel.
Thank you. And then Crystal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Crystal Ameling. I'm an occupational therapist. I own Sprouts Therapy in Kaimuki. And yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. And then we have Saini Lino.
Aloha everyone. Hi, I'm Sina from Camp Mokuleia, and I'll be sharing with you all some games you can play while you're during quarantine. Happy to be here.
Thank you all. If you guys would, you're all muted automatically, but if you would make sure that you stay on mute, and if you would like to speak, just make sure you unmute first. Also, if you would at the bottom, please turn on the chat feature just by clicking on the little button that says chat. If you have a question or a comment or would like to speak and ask a question to one of our panelists, please just type it in the chat function and we will make sure you have a chance to be heard. Okay, I have the questions that you guys submitted, and so we are going to run through those. We'll start with the questions that you submitted, and again, if you have any additional questions, just put them in chat and we'll make sure you get them, okay? So panelists, just as you feel like you can answer, jump in. Okay, so our first question, and this is one that was repeated a lot, is how do we explain to our children that we can't do our usual activities that we do while at school? How do we reduce behaviors emerging because all the fun places we go are not accessible right now?
Hi, Paula. It's Amanda. I'll start off, but I wanted to know if you hit record. It's not showing recording on my end, and I know sometimes I forget.
I actually I'm recording it through QuickTime because we've had a little bit of issue with the Zoom. So I'm recording it in a different way, but I will have it recorded and it will be available to everyone in the meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
So quickly, some ways to communicate. I think something that's really interesting is that several autism parents reached out to me at the beginning of the pandemic, and they were saying that some of their knowledge that they've gained through parent training or with their teachers and teens was really helping them with their other children and was helping them with their neighbors, because some of the things that we do all the time with routines and communication are the same recommendations we would have now, or at least that I would suggest. It's just kind of going back to some of the basics. With communicating language, some families have shared that they've been successful in saying that things are broken or things are closed or people are sick. I know that that's going to depend on your particular learner, but I would say think about some of the visuals that we use, and it's hard because we can't say in 10 sleeps we get to go back to the zoo or school because we don't yet know those dates, and even though we have a date, those dates might change. So I'll just acknowledge that it's hard and say I think there's some simplified language. When I recently spoke to a 5-year-old, typical but 5-year-old nonetheless, she said, "Hey, do you know we can't go to church and school?" And I said, "Oh, really? That's the same for us," because they're on the mainland. And she said, "Yeah, people are sick and we're waiting till everyone gets better." And that was sort of simple but really profound for me. I was like, really, that's all I need to know too.
I want to add to that a little bit. I think too, sometimes what I work on a lot is accepting no. Tolerating no can be really hard for a lot of our kids, clients, students, however we want to say. And in the accepting no program that I typically do for things that aren't available, things that, because usually no means not right now, not yet. Kind of the language that I use is that's not a reasonable choice, or that's not a reasonable choice right now. And that comes from, it's like, yes, like, because going to the park or to the store or the beach or wherever, that's in their normal routine, but right now it's not a reasonable choice. And then offering, 2 to 3 other choices. You can play with chalk, you can do this, you can do this. Also creating, like a schedule, don't have to stick to it minute by minute, but also, referring to like those visuals and stuff and being like, like park's not a reasonable choice right now, but these choices are reasonable and these are things that we can do. So that can be a little bit easier language and being like, nope, sorry, can't go. But I wanted to add to that.
Thank you.
And another term that I've been using a lot with our families is community time or community day, so that they can differentiate, like, this is home time and this is our community time, and then what activities are involved in our community time now. So it may be bike riding outside, or it might be going on a walk, it might be going to a park with just grass instead of a playground, but coming up with a bunch of activities that are still community time that are acceptable choices, and differentiating those in home time, but also making sure you're getting both in your day.
And then to carry off of that, if I may speak, to the second part of the question in terms of reducing behaviors that are emerging. So some of the struggles that I've had with my families are identifying the activities that we can have inside versus that we can't have outside. And the big part of that too is just finding different ways to engage our children and making things exciting. I know that a lot of our kids, again, like to go outside, like to be physical. I mean, who doesn't? We're all humans. We like to do that as well. So for some of our kids, it's just finding their highly preferred activities and then making it available in home if possible and available. And a lot of that is just being creative with what you have. So what we've done a lot of the times too is we've printed out like if kids like to go outside, I have a lot of kind of like teenagers, middle-aged kids, even my own kids, they like Pokemon. So like what we've been doing is like printing out pictures of Pokemon and hiding them around the house, and then just having like little adventures and just trying to make it reinforcing and having the parents involved, dependent upon you as a parent and where you are in your program with your child. A lot of the times we have the one-to-ones, if you have that available, or the RBT that's implementing the plan. So the big part of this too is, finding ways that you can incorporate yourself as a parent into those activities. And not only is that exciting for the child, but you're also focusing on building rapport with your child as well. And once you have that, it definitely helps with reducing the onset of, those behaviors that typically occur when they're just kind of expected to kind of go hang out on their own. So those are some things, and there's more activities that I'm sure that we'll come up with along this conversation, but just trying to find ways to bring the outside world into the inside whenever it's applicable.
Thank you all very much. The next question is about anxiety. This is a very high anxiety time. I myself have had to limit my news intake to about 15 minutes a day because it's just overwhelming to me. And so the question is, how can we help our children with disabilities deal with their anxiety?
I guess I could start with that. So a lot of the times in therapy, what we discuss with families is how to get kids into a regulated state of arousal or out of fight or flight. And one of the routes in doing that is to use movement or mobility. So when you think about your nervous system, when you're in kind of a freeze state or an anxiety state, the way to get your body and your nervous system out of that state is a lot of times by offering movement. So we want to make sure that there's enough movement activities throughout the day and do all those creative things that Kevin was talking about to kind of prevent that anxiety state from taking over. So I don't know, on my Sprouts Facebook page, you'll see a session that I posted of me doing an indoor obstacle course with kids. So they're using the furniture and hurtling over the couch and pushing a footstool and using a towel on the wood floor as a scooter board. But essentially, you want to be doing all of those physical activities and engaged activities to decrease the anxiety. So definitely incorporating the movement is important for that.
Yeah, I will I really appreciate those ideas, Crystal, and I think that there's a lot to be said about the benefit of movement and activity. And I know it can be really hard because we're feeling limited and trapped. Maybe some of us, and maybe our children. Something that, again, another parent shared with me was that generally the rule is we don't jump on the couch or we don't jump on our beds. But during quarantine time, and so they made some like kind of new quarantine time rules, like jumping on the couch is still not okay. But if they pull the cushions on the floor and jump on them or jump over them, maybe that's acceptable. So it's your household. I'm not telling you to allow anyone to destroy or to maybe not follow a rule that you want them to always follow. So again, be really kind of mindful and careful of that. But there are times where we are switching those rules. Painter's tape, right? That's another great one we see a lot online. You might have at your house, doesn't destroy your hardwood floors or your carpet. And you can, have little like hopscotch activities inside the house without having to use chalk. So there are some really great ideas, and we'll hear more of those. Something that I have found really helpful when working with children who might also have anxiety, just kind of at other times. This is really a heightened time where we're all feeling anxious, and I think to just recognize that for our children, like they may already have anxiety style behaviors, but this is just a very bizarre time for everybody. I think something that parents can do is take care of themselves as well, to make sure that we're able to respond to things that feel very challenging, not on an everyday basis, but now they feel extra challenging. So some things that are really simple as far as like creating and starting some mindfulness activities. Recently just saw one this morning. It was like a GIF on Facebook, right, or online, and it's like a ball going down this little slide, and you just watch it. But it says inhale and exhale, and at first I was just watching it. I wasn't breathing with it, and then I saw it jump from like a cloud to a balloon, and like I just was mesmerized. So there are some of those kinds of things that might be helpful for people as well.
Thank you. Okay, we've had a lot of people jump on. So just to recap for just a minute, if you would please turn your chat feature on if you've just joined us. And if you have questions that come up, you're welcome to type them into chat and we'll make sure they get asked. Thank you very much. All right, our next question is about balance. There are a lot of people who say they've gotten a lot of good tips for their children with disabilities on how to deal with things, but they have children without disabilities too, right? Or parents who have jobs, that they're working from home. And there are questions about how do we strike a healthy balance between those two things, between making sure you offer your special needs child what they need and still be able to have time for yourself, to get your work done, to be able to appreciate and offer support to your other children.
All right, so I think with creating balance, it's really going to be what's going to work best for you and your family. There's so many variables. You were saying how, some families are working, some are working from home, some are still are essential workers, and so they're leaving. And so, there's so many different factors. So I'm going to try and touch on a couple of them. But, with each family, there's going to be so many different ways to target this. But one thing that I've been helping my families with is creating these pockets. And here's the thing. Parents have been called to, help with e-learning and all this stuff and doing these things that they maybe haven't had to do in the past, and essentially be those teachers. But you're not the teacher. You're their parent, and you're the one who knows them best. And, and in this time, it might take some extra screen time so that you can get your work done. And, it might be, creating some other activities, that maybe not normally would have allowed in that time. So what I would say is like schedule things in blocks, from, 7 to 8 a.m., we're doing breakfast. And while the kids are eating breakfast, I'm going to go catch up on emails or something like that. Yes, it might be a little messy, but you know what? We can clean that up, and hey, we can work on cleaning up after breakfast. From like 8 to 10, that's going to be playtime. You go, Johnny, you go in your room. Sally, you go in your room, and you can play with whatever you want. Put on, the headphones, something. They can listen to music, whatever that's going to be, and that might be some work time. And then, from 11 to 12, all right, Sally, this is your time to do academics. I'm I'm going to be here. I'm going to be right next to you. I'm going to help you with your work. You can ask me questions. You can do something like that. And then, from 12 to 1, maybe we're going to do lunch. 1 to 2, now it's Johnny's turn. Hey, Sally, can you please help your brother out with some of his work? Can you make sure he's sitting down? Let's, incorporate the siblings if they're able to help in that. But also, don't set the bar so high where, where this is school. This is like, we're doing this. We're doing schoolwork. You have to get this done. Your kid's not going to do well in that high-stress environment, and you're not going to do well, and then there's going to be meltdowns, blowing up, all of that. And I see the comment in here using first then language. We call that the BREMAT principle in ABA. Use that. If you have individual ABA sessions and there's a token board that your RBT or BCBA uses or something, use that. If you need to create one, you can grab a piece of paper, draw some boxes on it, and then use smiley faces. You can get creative with however you do. You might want to lower that demand a little bit. But there's so many different ways that, we can lower the demand. Let's be like, hey, you know what? Instead of doing all 10 of these worksheets that we have, we're going to do one right now. And after this one, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to do some, like an obstacle course. So we're going to do something different to get you moving, get, your brain going. And then we're going to get through, maybe some sight works. Just because your teachers may have provided you all this work doesn't mean you're required to do it all. Like I said, your kid best, and their limits. That's what we're always saying in IEP. Who's the expert on their kid? It's you. It's the parent. And so this is that really time to, I know my kid. I know when they're getting really escalated. I know when something's just not right. And so it's okay to take those breaks. We're human. We're all human. And, we need to remember that sometimes. So, yeah, anyone else have anything to add on that?
I could probably add a little bit to that as well. I think it's really hard for parents, and me too, with my baby at home, to separate time with me working at home and being a parent at home. And what I'm finding is I'm not giving myself 100% to my daughter because I'm on the phone or answering emails and all this stuff at the same time. And so I think what's really important also is to make sure that at some point in those blocks of times, you're turning everything else off and giving your child that 100% of you and completely filling their cup. Because if they get a little bit of you throughout the day, but you're on your phone and you're answering an email or you're out here, you're not 100% completely engaged in their play and their worlds. And that's really, really important for them to feel fulfilled and their cups to get filled. And it ends up in child regulation. And so make sure as you're filling out those structured blocks of your time, that at one point in your day, every single day, there's a chunk of it that they get all of you. And then another thing to add is that the things that they do in school are not necessarily the things that you have to engage in at home to make academic gains or life skill gains. They could be completely different things. So if you have to do the dishes at home and do laundry at home as part of your regular day, you can make bubble sync time on their schedule. And bubble sync time is really doing dishes, right? But you're acting like you're engaging bubbles into the activity. It could be a 40-minute activity rather than a 10 or 15-minute one that you usually do. But it's engaging, everybody's participating, and they're learning a skill, a life skill in doing dishes. And sorting laundry is color coding, so different kinds of things that you do regularly can be academic based, but also can get things checked off your list.
Those are excellent points, and many of the things that I would have said. So the only things I wanted to add were, right now I think parents' job is to preserve safety and sanity, and everything else is like bonus. So if you want to do activities or you're worried about regression, I certainly understand that, and we can give you some tips of like how to break that down or how to talk to any of their providers or what telehealth might look like. But I really, really, it resonates what Crystal's saying with me. I'm finding that I'm constantly doing everything at once. And maybe that is, it's probably just a really great strategy for myself. The other thing I would say is when chunking out your day, when looking at activities like Tori was just talking about, I recommend like 1 to 2 hour blocks versus 10 minutes or 15 minutes. That allows flexibility, that allows a lag in the transition. If transitions are difficult, it also decreases the number of transitions that your child might be going through if they're longer periods of time, especially if they're activities that are engaging or that there's something super exciting at the end. For example, one of my friends, her son is very severely impaired. He's 15 years old, 300 pounds. She's worried. What is she going to be doing with him? And so she started some meal prep, right? So he has like numbers and measuring at school, like just like Krista was talking about. It's done one way at school. At home, they use that to do some cookies. And while he was involved in that activity, he wasn't begging mom, like, where's my cookies, cookies, cookies. He knew he was making them. So although he needed support to do that, it helped in the transition of waiting. So the time he had to wait was dependent on just how long they took to cook in the oven, and literally could flip on the light, for example, and could watch it bake. And it took the delay off of the mother. So there's those kinds of things as well. I do think schedules are really important, but I think flexibility within those schedules will help us a lot during this time.
And to pick up off of that, I definitely want to jump on the idea of the balance. When this first started for myself, I was extremely anxious with everything happening, and it took me a while to turn around and realize that I was modeling that for my children, and in turn, I was getting that response back from them, and it was like cyclical. It was a circle, and I was like, what is going on? And then eventually just came to realize all the different hats that I was trying to wear at that time. It was being a father, it was being a BCBA, it was trying to help make sure that all my staff are healthy and safe during this time. And then just like with what Amanda said, it took some time for me to realize, but when I did, just getting down on the floor and getting those 1 to 2, 3 hour blocks with my kids and giving them that attention, just significantly increased just the relationship that I've had with them. It's going to make getting back to work very difficult because it's almost just like at the same time, this whole experience has been just eye-opening for a lot of people. But at the same time, those challenging behaviors do occur, and when they do, you have to make sure that you're at a place where that you're at your zen, you're comfortable, you can model how to respond to this high pressure, high emotional, high magnitude type of behavior. And again, that starts with us being the adults and the model for our children. So taking care of yourself is going to be huge, and that's going to be a big thing that I think I'm going to keep reflecting during this talk, because it's definitely something that I've been communicating a lot to my families, to my parents. It's so easy to just get caught up online and get stressed out about what's happening and what's going on, but what can we control? And hopefully it's our home, it's our little world that we have here, and even if at times we feel like we're cycling down and we're losing that control, think about what you can control, whether it's 1 or 2 things at that moment, not trying to think of everything at that time. So setting goals for yourself and identifying, what are the first steps that I need to do to regain that type of relationship or control within my household. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Our next section of questions, we had a lot of people who had concerns saying that they are accustomed to having a lot more help with their child, whether that be through a PAB worker or a school situation, a parapro or a teacher or a therapist, and now it's just them there. And so the question that was asked was, what suggestions do you have to help caregivers manage a behavior crisis remotely?
Well, I like how they added in the question remotely, or that caveat there. I think right now, as Kevin mentioned, when this first happened, it was like, I think the first week was just panic or just confusion. Maybe confusion is a better word. And then from there, people started to get their feet under them a little bit more. For families who have access to medical services, most medical ABA providers right now are continuing to provide services. Some of them are providing in-person services. I know Bayada still has their clinics open, Malamapono as well. Neeley is providing services. And so that's something that if parents are not comfortable having anything in person, remote is an option. And remote is something that we've always had to consider since we've been providing ABA services in the state because of just how spread out our state is and how we don't have providers on all islands and things like that. Remote can be really challenging and difficult, but some things that work really well when trying to coach a family through a behavioral challenge is that they will have an earbud or ear set, so they will put it in their ear so they're hearing us, not their child. And that's meant to be kind of like, like let your conscience be your guide, like the little bug in your ear versus having everybody hear it. Because if I'm saying something that might actually escalate the situation if two people are talking, we want to minimize that for your child, for your learner. So if you do have access to medical services right now, please reach out to them and find out what that looks like and how that could be for you and your family. If you don't have access to medical services, I recognize that right now is a hard time to add your name to a wait list. However, I think there is some increased flexibility with people who are not providing the length of sessions or the density that we're also used to providing. So there might be some availability, especially if there's any high crisis situations. And if you don't have access to any of that medical support, but you do have a really good relationship or access to your educational team, then, right now, Hawaii Department of Education, they released 2 memos to teachers, and one was on related services. And related services are to continue to happen right now, if at all possible. So physical therapy may not make sense, or a consultation model might be the only thing that's appropriate. But definitely, if you have access to a BCBA, they should be right now working, and they should be available to be coaching parents through that.
And to speak and to add to the analysts that are working and providing telehealth services during this time, just to emphasize, please do reach out to us. I have had a few families that, they were kind of just hidden, and then out of nowhere they reach out and, they let me know that they were anxious about doing telehealth services because the idea that they had in their mind was, they know their child's curriculum, they know their child's plan, and what they had in their mind was, how am I as a parent all by myself going to be able to do this? Please keep in mind that if there is a plan that's in place, it's not our idea that you are going to be implementing all those goals that we typically have our RBTs running. Hopefully, the idea of running a telehealth session with a BCBA during this time would almost create new goals, and it'll have a conversation with the analyst and identify what can we work on, what are some few steps that can identify in the home, and start from there. And then just keep that in mind that there are analysts that were booked, or there were companies that had analysts that did not have availability, but due to this time, there has been a few analysts that have their availability opened up. So maybe reach out to them and see whether or not they are offering telehealth services, because it can help you as much as the BCB on the other end that wants to support more families during this type of pandemic. So again, just to keep in mind, you guys are not RBTs. We're not going to be asking you guys to be running this plan full blown 100%. Goals should be modified specific to what you guys are currently experiencing, and it should start in terms of baby steps, not just flooding you guys with all this information and saying, okay, go.
Yeah, and I just want to add one other thing to that, is that the insurance companies have actually been really flexible and gracious at this time. So we are updating objectives and treatment plans as needed, but they're also okay if there's like a delay in that. So of course, people should, on the provider end, should still be doing all the things that providers need to do. But one really silver lining has been just the support of the insurers. I don't know if Kevin, if you've experienced differently, but that's what I've been hearing from providers and families.
And I do want to add something too, just as like a general rule of thumb. This isn't specific advice or anything, but what I think a lot of this sometimes it comes down to is we want to keep your child safe. And say the plan like the back of your hand, and it's maybe it's waiting out or like following through for like every little thing. And it's like I follow through on this demand, and it's gonna be a whole meltdown, a whole blow up. They're gonna be aggressive. I'm gonna get hurt, something like that. Really weigh, kind of like a choose your battles thing. Like if it's like, will it be the end of the world if I give them this extra snack? And like, if I say no and I follow through, is it worth the whole tantrum, all the aggression, all this stuff? Or can I modify it? Like, you know what? You can't have a whole goldfish. You can have, 3 pieces. And then you can have another 3 pieces, something like that. So, if like, we know you guys know the plan. So if and it's like, this is, in school, there's an RBT, there's a BCK, there's a teacher, there's 3 people to support with a tantrum. If it's you and your child alone in the house, or you and the siblings, or just you and your husband or wife or something, and you don't think you can safely manage like a tantrum, it's really like choosing your battles, like what do I need to do to keep this safe without giving into everything, but also, like what can I let go, what can I not, which boundaries are we going to push forward with this?
And I could just also add a little bit about the insurance companies. We are seeing great benefits for teletherapy services for OT, for speech, and for PT. And I am a movement-based, like hands-on therapist. So, even the therapists were having to adjust and learn and relearn how we're going to deliver the services. But the parents and the therapist have all been very pleasantly surprised that there are a lot of things that you can do via teletherapy that you would be, able to do from a clinic. And the one benefit to it is you actually get a therapist to kind of see inside your home, which isn't always available to you. So they get to kind of say, oh, well, you could do this every single day if you change this into this every single day. So the other thing is there's magic moments that happen between a therapist and a child. And it allows you as the parent to experience a lot of these magic moments because the therapist has to direct you along the way. So even though it's scary and you're often thinking maybe my child could not do it, I would encourage everyone to give it a try because it is valuable in a different way, but there's still a lot of value to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question is about specifics. People are wondering if there are tools that you guys can share, specific tools such as social stories, specific visual calendars, things like that, token economies that you could share with our group that they might be able to modify for their own use at home.
The first week that this all started happening on my website, behaviorbabe.com, which is all free information, there's a Cooped Up with Corona page that has engineering activities for things to do at home. It has token boards, social stories, Brain Pop. If you're familiar with them, their software, they have videos, like make your own storyline, color in the pictures. So it can be adapted and modified to a lot of different communication and learning styles. I also typed in the chat box, I had done a talk for the National Council on Severe Autism, talking about more what Tori was just speaking on some really severe behaviors. And I'm happy to drop that link as well and share that link. I'll put it in the chat box, but I'll also send it, all of the resources to Paula, because I know that she'll send out information afterwards. There are token boards available. As Tori mentioned, though, you can grab a piece of paper, you can grab a dry erase board. I saw one meme, I don't know if it was a parent or who, but standing in their bathtub because their bathtub worked as a dry erase board. I thought that was really creative. I had never thought of that. So yeah, I mean, there's the formality of it is really less important than it is to understand some of the structure behind it. And yes, we recognize, as Kevin said, like parents are not RBTs, but I also appreciate, as somebody put in the chat box, that parents want these skills themselves. I think when we look at returning to life as we knew it, or maybe hopefully even a better version of things, like Kevin said, we've gotten some reflections along the way. This is a really good time at that time to identify like what skills you don't feel comfortable or you don't feel like you have, and prioritize those for parent training specific to your child. Again, more generalized kinds of things or learning about the principles. There is a free RBT training. If you take the courses, it does not mean that you are an RBT. You do not. You normally have to have a BCBA doing a competency, and you have to take an exam that's proctored. But many parents are saying they're really enjoying, not that they have all the time in the world. So again, if it fits for you, I understand, and if it doesn't, no problem. But the Autism Foundation, or the Autism Partnership Foundation, has now made the 40-hour RBT training for free. And so some parents are just doing an hour here or there, or bits and pieces, and they're telling me they're really enjoying it. I haven't signed up for this course in particular, so I don't know the details of it. Oh, also, I wanted to mention on our website for Kiki.com, we have a list of activities and other PowerPoints and webinars that we've been offering. And so we have been storing those there free as well, the recordings and the PowerPoints, if anybody's interested in looking at any of those topics. And we've tried to make them all current, like COVID related, or related to what's currently happening because of COVID.
Let's see. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to throw it for just a minute to Saini Lino. Saini is the program director and activity director at Camp Mokuleia on the North Shore of Oahu, and she is the person who comes up with all of the fun activities that the groups and the retreats for adults, children of all ages, do out there, and she has come up with a few things that might help us with just fun activities for those of us who are not typically camp counselors, and may not be able to come up with fun things to do for the kids that are different and exciting and might get rid of some of those wiggles and allow us to get some other things done. So I'm going to throw it to Saini.
Oh, hi. Aloha, everyone. So I'm going to try and share my screen so that you guys can see what I'm looking at. Let's hope this works. Perfect. Is this okay? All right. I think I'm where I need us to be. Okay. All right. So, aloha, everyone. I'm really excited to hop in on this first and foremost because Camp Mokuleia is going to, well, should everything get better, we hopefully will host one of our first camp for our friends with autism here at Camp Mokuleia. And this will be a really big step on our part to becoming an inclusive camp. And I think having this, I know that having Paula as a wealth of knowledge and also just listening in on this is very, very helpful. By the way, great job, y'all. I know that these are crazy times, but keep up the great work. So fun at home. There are many things that you could do while at home, but I do want to share, please do know that I don't have too much experience with
Uh-oh. Saini, I think we've lost you for a second. Are you muted?
Hello? Okay. Okay. So I want to say thank you. Please do know that there are things that I may not know that might be reflected in this, so please feel free to wave your hand and let me know and correct me should anything not be correct. But this is something I saw that I came across, and it said English is my second language, autism is my first. And this was my approach to a lot of the games that I wanted to share with you today. I wanted to make sure that some of them at least were appropriate and would be very helpful to you all at this time. So I heard a lot of you guys were talking about like sensory activities and just making sure that you cater to your kids or those that you're looking after. And so I'm going to go through different senses like sight, touch, and some of the things that you can do around that idea. And so first sight, first and foremost, is colors, of course, but I am aware that there are sensory seekers and also sensory sensitive friends. And so you all know your kids, and so you would be able to change this in a way that would support them best. So at this time, during the whole COVID-19, I thought it was really cool that this activity came about, soap jellies, making them at home. What's really, really cool is that if you were to make this, I think you would be finding a really hard time keeping them outside of the bathroom or away from a sink because they would be using these up so fast. It's one of my favorites. We've done this at home, especially during this time. We're trying to figure out ways for kids to want to wash their hands, and so this was one of the cool things that you could do. You could make it sparkly. You can make it smell really, really nice. But what's a disclaimer is you have to make sure that they are aware that it's soap and not one of the gummies that they could accidentally want to have. This is something really cool that I think since we're staying home, why not redecorate our rooms? I think it's an exciting project, and I know a lot of people's like, nope, I don't want to go near that mess. But the truth is like, if you give them something exciting to do, it can be it's a project that could that you could prolong throughout this time. So, for example, you could spend time planning redecorating your room, and then the fun part is the creating. But you never know; the fun part could also be in the planning, them and their ideas and whatnot. And I know one of you guys mentioned Pokemons, so maybe you'd have Pokemon themed bedroom on one week, and then toward the end of the quarantine, you'll have a whole different look. It's gonna be fun. But this was really, really cool. Someone, their kids liked touching things and like the feeling of different things on textures on their hands. And so they had a mermaid fabric board in her room. But there are other things that you could also do. For example, here is a wall, like you see all those carpet samples that someone had done they put that up for their son so they could have fun playing with the different textures. But another one is also having redecorated their garden so that they could feel with their feet. If they're sick and tired of being indoors, they could just go out. Again, these are projects. The garden one is probably a project that you could prolong throughout your time during quarantine. But some ideas that I thought I'd throw out there. Taste. Now, living in Hawaii, food is everything. And in my household as a Polynesian, this is something that I cannot keep my kids away from, and so why not include them? One of the cool things is you can explore color, taste, and textures as well. So ice cream parties. I know some of the things that we need to be aware of is, of course, allergies and whatnot. And so up to you what you'd like to do. But what was really cool is that you could find different things to mix in with your ice creams, right? I know that you're unable to shop right now. So one of the cool things is whatever you have at home that you need to get rid of, or whatever you went out shopping for that you found out you don't need, that you can't use anymore. I'm not sure about you all, but my fridge is full of things that I thought I needed during this quarantine time and have not been able to use. And so one of them was having an excuse to use them during an ice cream party. And so different colors, like strawberries, red. And then you talk about how a lot of the candies that reflect those fruits are always the same color. And so I heard that someone was talking about like differentiating the different colors when you're doing laundry. I think this is a really cool way to do that as well. Another one is baking. I'm not sure about you all, and but I am not a very good person at baking. I don't have the patience, and I also can never get a really good recipe. But I found this really, really cool, like dyeing the cookies a certain color and then making that in an exercise where they could also learn about colors. But in addition to that, you don't have to cook. Maybe you could just do frosting, icing. And a lot of people's like, but I need to go shopping for that. Well, Amazon can actually deliver this to your house so you don't have to leave should you need any ingredients. Fruitsicles, again, talking about those fruits that are probably rotting in our fridge that we have yet to touch because of all the food that we've been buying. You could also use them into fun things like this that the kids could also help with. Some of us may not have molds that we could make the popsicles from, so you could use cups, whatever reusable cups that you might have at home that you could freeze in your freezers. Sound. And so I found out that a lot of the kids like to at camp, they love playing with things, but when there's sound, like when it makes a lot of noise, for some odd reason their attention is like caught. Like I would not lose it if there is sound. And so what I love about this is dry pasta that was dyed with food coloring. And so in addition to learning your colors, you could also play with them, and the sounds they make and the way they feel in your hand is really, really cool. Something I have yet to try, but I'm looking forward to do should I get the chance this summer or in the future. I think earlier in the chat, someone wrote, Go Noodle is one of my favorites. And that's actually what I have. Go Noodle YouTube channel. This is a channel that is your best friend. What's really, really cool is they have content that will cater to different age groups. You have some for elementary, younger than that. You also have for middle schoolers to keep them active, but also get them excited for some new songs because they update all of their content. Like, for example, Frozen 2 recently just came out. They have a video already with the characters exercising with you. Super, super cool. Now, For games and activities, this is my favorite. Something that I have not been able to do because I'm not blessed with a backyard. And my house, if we were to make a lot of noise, I think my neighbors would complain. But these are some things that you could do should you, if you have a backyard, use them. But then also, like Crystal or people in the chat mentioned, you could change some of your rules in your house to hopefully cater to the change and the chaos that the kids are going through. So one of my favorite, I'm going to start with some outdoor activities. This may be a little bit complicated for our elementary friends, but you never know. You could adjust it in such a way. But it's called we call it Minesweeper, and the reason is you have to choose the correct box. You actually have to step onto the correct box. And should you step in an incorrect box, what would happen is you'd have to go back in the back of the line, and then you'd have to restart the game. The goal is for you to, or at least the participants, to figure out the route or the pattern that the facilitator has. And so what's really, really cool is I have two different ways that you can play this game. So you notice on the left, the top has like the X's of where the path that they could follow. At Camp Mokuleia, we sort of adjusted that. We made a sort of like a grid pattern, like a code they have to step into correctly. So if you notice, there are 22 steps, and a lot of people are like, well, one kid can't remember 22 steps. Well, this is where the team building part comes into play. A lot of people, because they're participating solely one by one, they automatically assume that they themselves are the ones who have to figure this out. But what's really, really cool is, no, you do not. The person who went before you, their mistake in stepping in the incorrect box was actually helpful for the entire team, because then now they know where not to step onto. So this is one of my favorite games, because what's really, really cool is everything is a learning moment. And what's good about playing at home is that you know your kids, and so your debrief will be a lot more meaningful than what it probably would be here at camp should they come for like one night of camp. But you have two different ways, like I mentioned. Make a pattern of your own and make sure that they follow that, or have 22 steps. Don't go crazy. You can start with 16 or less, 3x3s. That's fine with me. But it's Minesweeper. I will be sure to send this to Paula, and she will send it to you. The title actually has the link that explains all of this as well. Hula Hoop Hop. This is one of my favorite, and kid you not, I found this on Facebook. So there is some good things that come out of that social media. This is really, really cool. What you notice is on the right picture, you have a path that's made with hula hoops. And the goal is basically there are two teams. Imagine a blue team and a red team. And the idea is one participant from each team is going to hop as much as they can towards the other team's kingdom. That's why it's called Rock, Paper, Scissors Kingdom, because we made so many fancy names and couldn't remember what name went with what game. So Rock, Paper, Scissors Kingdom. There are two kingdoms, and you're trying to get to the other kingdom. But you are stopped by their first guard. That's why you see two people playing Rock, Paper, Scissors. You can't get through them. The only way you can get through them is if you win the Rock, Paper, Scissors. So if you win, you continue. However, there's a second guard from the other team, because of course there are two teams with numerous players. You can make different variations of this activity. It's one of my favorite, first and foremost, because you're burning lots and lots of energy, and they can do whatever they want. Hop, skip, jump, walk, whatever they want to do, but at their own pace. What better time to play treasure hunt than inside your home during quarantine time? Imagination is everything. And what's really cool about the internet is they already have ready-made clues. For example, right there, I have 4 legs but don't have feet. I come in handy when it's time to eat. Simple things that you can just copy and paste and print. And what's really cool is that the kids' imaginations can go wild. Some of them can actually help you. Maybe you could have a sibling help you with the treasure hunt this week and a different one, so that they're a part of the process and maybe look forward to that. Really, really cool stuff. And the ready-made clues, that's also a link to numerous clues that you can have, so you don't have to overthink it yourself. this. So what I'm about to share with you is an app. Ellen DeGeneres actually made this. She, heads up, I'm not sure if a lot of you all are familiar with this, but it's very, very good. First and foremost, it comes with instructions, and instructions you don't have to read. It's someone talking to you as if you're Zooming with them. And they will give you the instructions. And in addition to that, there are numerous different things that you can choose from. For example, you can act it out, animals gone wild, super cool stuff. And it also is appropriate for the different age groups. What's really cool is that what happens is the person who's going to be it places the phone on their forehead, and everyone else in the group can see the word except the participant, the person who's it. And so everyone else is going to act it out, what is on that phone, and you have to guess that. And what's cool is that no one knows this, and so I'm doing y'all a favor giving you this warning, but you get recorded and you get to choose whether to save that video or not. But it's fun memories that you can reflect on during Christmas and whatnot. These are actually all that I have right now, the 10 activities. I didn't want to overwhelm you with so many different activities, but I love doing this. I love looking up activities. And so if you guys want me to look up some more, I don't mind having Paula give you my email so that I can help you find some activities. But again, I hope these were very helpful. I think that this time being at home is a great time for families to bond. And there is a Hawaiian proverb that I want to share with you. It goes, "A'ole pau ka'ike e kahala ho'okahi," which means not all things is learned from one place. And so what better time but to learn from each other within your family at this time. And so take care, stay safe, and I hope this was helpful.
Thank you, Saini, so much. Those things look like a lot of fun. If you don't mind unsharing your screen for just a minute, and we really appreciate all of that. And I want to thank all of the people who are on our panel today. We did get through all of the questions that people asked, and I'm so appreciative of everyone being a part. I did record this session, and I will be both emailing that out to everyone, and I will post it on Facebook for people to see and to share. Also, any links that were mentioned during the session, any web pages, any resources, I will include all of those with the email so that you'll have those to view at home. And I really appreciate it. Saini did mention that Camp Mokuleia had planned on partnering with Hawaii Autism Foundation to run a summer camp for kids with developmental disabilities this summer. That's obviously a little bit fluid right now. We don't know what that schedule will be, but watch this space, because we hope that at some point we will be able to do that, maybe as a retreat in the fall instead, or if things turn out really well, maybe we can do it this summer, but we hope that you guys will join us. Just for your information, Hawaii Autism Foundation is sponsoring one of these every Monday at 10 o'clock. There's a different topic every Monday, and so we hope that you'll join us for the next one. If you have any ideas of ways that you, things that you might want to hear about, please let us know, and we'll be glad to try to help find answers to all your questions. And the last thing, on Fridays, we are hosting a social group for kids with disabilities, kids and young adults with disabilities. We did one this past Friday. We gave the kids an opportunity to do like a show and tell. We had a little mini dance party. We did some stretches, and we just had some kind of structured social time, which is something that I think a lot of the kids, when they're out of school, are missing. And so we would love for you to join us for that as well. And again, thank you very much. And I see the age range of the social group. It was pretty much, I'd say 13 and up, Kevin. And the info for Friday is on our Facebook page, but I will resend it with this link as well. Okay? All right, guys, mahalo, stay well, and thank you very much. Bye, guys.